Hey everybody, and welcome to BeatStars Seminars Day 3 with Gerry Basserman of Propellerhead. Gerry, thank you for coming on and talking to the folks. We appreciate
All right.
your time.
Hi, everybody.
So as everyone knows, if you don't know, I'm the CEO and founder of BeatStars, a digital production marketplace where music producers sell beats and instrumentals online and on your mobile device. And today we're going to be touching on the one subject that we haven't touched on yet, and that is music creation. And with Reason 7 just being released, we're very excited that we have you. I'm sure it's a crazy time right now. I think it's your most impressive product so far over there, and real excited to hear more about it. So, Gerry, can you please introduce yourself and give a little background about yourself to everybody, and let them know what you do here for Propellerhead here in the States.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Gerry Basserman. Been a musician all my life. Started out kind of as a classical musician in music school, and stayed in school as long as I could because I knew I was going to be working eventually. But it was really fun, learning lots of repertoire and tunes. Eventually, when I got out of that, I understood that there was probably little career for me anyway in classical. So went to New York and started playing in bands and learning more about electronic music. I got picked up by EMU Systems when sampling hit and got a chance to show that around the world. And at any rate, did a 16-year stint of freelance composing, recording, sort of anything you can do to get your nut. I taught a little bit at UCSC, which is University of California here in Santa Cruz. Worked for Zoom. They were my main client in Japan. But at any rate, after that stint, I took the job with Propellerhead, and it's a job where Propellerhead Software is based in Stockholm, Sweden, and our main distributor here in the States is La6, and so they're located in California, 9 hours difference in time zone. So anyway, that's why I'm here, right? Because it's so far, and I'm the director of North American markets, doing a little bit of artist relations, a little bit of education support, definitely distributor support in Canada and U.S., and demos, and kind of the guy with the most hats. I just keep changing the hats. That's kind of how I like it. But anyway, yeah, so I get to use my musicianship that I learned those years ago in school, just not only writing my stuff, but showing how you use a DAW like Reason. I've used them all. Ultimately, when you're a 16-year freelancer, you end up using every piece of software out there, right? Because every client needs something different. So you end up saying, I got to learn them all. And I ended up teaching Logic at the university. So longtime Pro Tools user. I've used Live a lot, but now, of course, sort of focused into Reason, and I know the most about that. And the funny thing is, Abe, about Reason 7, maybe more than any company I know, we try to talk about Reason as an evergreen product, no matter what the number is after it. Because I go to the shows, I meet lots of people on whatever, 3, 4, 5, 6. I meet record users. There's a similar design philosophy and way of making music that's common to all of them, and we call that Reason. 7's really exciting because it just hit. But in fact, we're always sort of talking about Reason and the rack and the paradigm that we use. So, in a way, it's a milestone to have a new version. But also, Reason is a way of working, no matter what version you have. I had a guy last year who came up to me after a clinic, and he gave me a CD. He said, I did this all in Reason. And then I said, great. Oh, I'll listen to it. He goes, Reason 1. It was like he did that, a couple of years ago. And I was amazed that, he was still surfacing 8 or 9 years later. So anyway,
at the end of the day, the fundamental functionality, I think that's what started with the software, right? There's the fundamental things, and a lot of times, people just discredit, the ear. A lot of times, the fanciest plugins, the fanciest effects and things like that are really, not what it takes to make a track sound incredible. Sometimes it's just, the good old ear to make sure that the volume levels and everything sounds good.
Yeah, Well, we're talking about music creation, and one of the things I've had a lot of composition students, songwriting students, they get stuck, and a lot of times they're stuck in the number of options they have, right? And these DAWs, even the least of them, have so many things to offer, instruments and ways of doing things. People get lost. They think they need to know everything. It's really intimidating. And I usually counsel at that point, just strip it down, just give yourself a challenge of limitations. I'm only going to use this one synth or this one device, or I'm going to limit myself to such and such. One guy I taught at UCSC was so blown away by the computer, he had to back off. I said, just use guitar pedals. He was a guitarist. I said, put other instruments through them, record each track, but really, and he came back and he had a refresh about how he could make music because the options were limited. His creativity was, sort of opened up. So, yeah, that just because we offer a lot in these software packages doesn't mean you need to know everything about them. If you got Reason and you learned Kong, and it's the only thing you knew about it, well, it's like using an MPC. You can make a great song. So, yeah.
Definitely. So, well, I was going to ask this question a little later, but you know what? I might bring it up now since you did bring up the MPC. A lot of people, I guess, if you're visiting today, you probably are familiar with Reason. If you're not, maybe we can, get into a little detail later. But I've noticed within my community of music producers, and they've always asked, will there ever be a piece of hardware, console, like an MPC, that would be integrated, with a software like Reason for the bedroom music producer that needs, that is used to that kind of setup. Is there any product development in that side from the Propellerhead side?
Yeah, I guess you're right. Currently you have to sort of cobble it together. You could even get a trigger finger or any kind of pad device that's a controller, but that's not intimately wed to the software, right? It's sort of like then I have my MIDI controller kind of thing. It works great, but you're talking about something that has real links, and I would say the thing that's happened most recently is the Panorama. The Nectar Panorama is a keyboard that's dedicated to being able to edit every parameter of Reason with knobs, and right there in the software, there's an automated fader. They also just came out with a keyboardless version, similarly adept at using with Reason. And there's other, controllers that have Reason templates. So the minute you load the Reason template, then it seems like, wow, I touch that knob and all of a sudden it knows what I want. There's more of that. But I think you're talking about, the most intimate connection, right, which would be designed completely to do that.
Yeah.
Panorama is as close as we have right now. Mm-hmm. I know lots of people who use Machina with Reason. They love it, right? Because Machina feels good, and it allows them to do a lot of things, and they like Reason's workflow, so they can use that as but again, it's a controller.
There's always opportunity to work with different pieces of hardware.
Right.
Gerry, what type of musician would you say is kind of like the target user for Reason? For people that don't know much about Reason as a digital audio workstation, what type of musician, vocalist, songwriter, who should be using it, and who will benefit the most from it?
Yeah, that's changed over time, absolutely. The acronym EDM didn't exist years ago, but if it did, when Reason came out in 2001, it was definitely a techno electronic music crowd that was using Reason because we excelled in virtual synths in the box, right? Things you could do. After Rebirth in '98, it was like, wow, can sound good in the box. How can I do this synth stuff in my computer? And so it attracted anybody making electronic music, right? And then we didn't record audio for many years, and until 2009, right, when Record came out. So I'd say up to that point, it was definitely dance music producers and electronic music form producers, etc. Then all of a sudden we could record audio, We had Line 6 virtual pods on board for guitarists. We had the model of the SSL 9000K on board. And so all of a sudden, maybe a songwriter could say, wow, I can unlimited tracks, I can, not a lot of tech stuff in my way. We try to stay away from that. And our journey since 2009 has been to attract those kind of songwriters, acoustic guitar players, lots of people. I frankly wasn't sure how it was all working until we did a survey last year. We surveyed lots and lots of our users. We found that 30% considered themselves keyboard players, 25% considered themselves guitarists, right? 20% songwriters. Yeah, there was a lot of also electronic producers, people. There was a lot of surprising results in that survey. So I think we have turned the corner to be a good platform for like right now, I've turned from electronic music, and the last 3 years it's been nothing but Brazilian style samba and bossa nova music, and that's all acoustic. So I'm finding that Reason is just as good for that, as running on a drum machine and coming up with filter sweep, sounds. So I think at this point we're trying for everyone.
Yeah. There's definitely a void, especially if you're talking about the traditional recording of vocals and using Pro Tools. I wouldn't go into Pro Tools to create a composition like a beat or an instrumental or a production. Just not the first thing that I'm going to go for. But if I had a suite software that covered everything from recording vocals to production, there's no reason why I wouldn't want to use Reason, right? So
yeah, there's this difference that we call music creation software now, or there are certain aspects of music creation software that I think anybody who has a DAW like Pro Tools has been looking for, right? Because Pro Tools users are, there's my cat. Pro Tools users have been called operators, right? And it's something at Propellerhead where we think, well, our users aren't operators, they're musicians. And so it's a kind of attitude of, do you have to operate your software, or can you stay in that frame of mind, which is entirely creative, and use software and not have to leave it to operate your software? I think that's maybe our mantra, right? We want people to stay there and be able to produce their whole, to the end of their mix in the same software and not have to turn on the other side of the brain so much, right? We've all learned to do it. Geez, when I got a tape reel-to-reel deck years ago, I was so excited. I can record my own multi-track stuff. Well, guess what? You had to maintain it, and you had to adjust the bias, and there's never been this non-technical aspect of running your own studio. But I think our mission has been to reduce that so that you largely stay in a music creation space. So I think that's what we've done really well. Of course, Logic has also done it, right? They have all these instruments on board for years, and then all the other companies sort of goes, wow, we got to get virtual instruments on. So at this point, you have a nice mix in all the DAWs of instruments plus recording abilities, and as do we. And so I think,
who knows how long there's going to be support for a software like Logic. You hear about a company like Apple laying off a lot of their staff out there in Europe that are creating the Logic software, and now they're gearing themselves towards taking their software mobile and putting it on an iPad, and I just don't know how that's going to sit well with a lot of dedicated diehard Logic users. So I think you're always going to need a desktop application that does it all, that you're able to complete your tasks in. So
yeah.
Next question is that you guys are clearly always just with all the ecosystems within Reason, you guys are one of the hardest working teams that I've seen in music software space, and that's why I'm always so drawn to you guys. I'm always staying in contact with you, and always aspire to to make sure I know what's going on over there, because I think you guys are definitely one of the companies that are out there that are really innovating and pushing the envelope. What would you say is the biggest differentiator between Reason and some of your bigger competitors, like a FL Studio or a Logic, or Ableton? What's the number one biggest differentiator? other than doing it all?
I think it's this workflow thing that, like for example, let me give you some examples. Oops, I should turn that off. For example, when you use Reason, and this will be unbelievable to people who have never used it, at least as of 2009, you know, when you create a track to record, you hit Command-T or you pull down the menu, and you hit record, and you're going already. And that's an immediacy that's really hard to find in competition, because in the competition, or in the other DAWs, let's say, you need to name the track. You need to say where it's going to go on your drive. You need to say what's the sample rate. You need to, and what is a sample rate? Oh, and what is a bit rate? And what does that mean to me? And so, yes, I will. There's nothing wrong with it. You go to any number of places to find out how to learn about digital audio so that you can just record your kooky idea, right? So there's a certain, you know, learning curve that's beyond the application that's called digital audio, which I've taught a lot. And any of us who've been in this for a while go, well, of course, you know, that's what you learn. But for a new person to the game, you know, it's kind of like, well, this is a computer. Shouldn't it kind of figure that out for me? Do I really have to negotiate all that stuff? In Reason, I can record at 44 kilohertz sample rate and 16-bit, because all I have is my computer. And I can send it to my friend in LA who's got a, you know, big-time Pro Tools HD system running at 192 K samples and 24-bit. He can put the drums on the same session. You send it to Boston to a guy with a Motu interface that's running at 48, 24. He can put it up. Nobody's even thinking about what are these rates. They're just saying, here's my bass part, you know. And when it comes back, Reason's playing back all these formats from every track different, and you're not even noticing it. So that we're trying to alleviate that. You know, I mean, I suppose there's a point of view that goes like, well, you know, you're skipping out. You need to know that stuff. That's the meat of it. But we're thinking, well, maybe the meat of it is making the music. Maybe the meat of it is really concentrating on that. Why shouldn't your computer handle such, frankly, boring or at least tedious details? And so there's a lot in Reason that is done that way to give you great sound, you know, without your having to fuss over how and why it's great. You know, that's why we modeled the SSL, because I'll tell you, you know, we've done a lot of pieces, these devices in the rack. I don't know if you've ever seen Reason, you guys out there, but the devices are these simulations of pieces, rack gear, you know, reverbs and and samplers and synths and stuff. And the mixer is also homage to this amazing mixer that's credited with doing more hit songs than any, and all the other mixers together, at least SSL says that, and it seems like it's true. But anyway, when I first listened to our models of that and also played with it, you know, in studios, whoever chose the parts on those analog boards, you know, somehow they chose amazing analog circuitry. They designed it so that, wow, the EQ sounds amazing. So by just putting that in a piece of software, so that you knob up, it doesn't get gritty and crazy when you turn it up more. It's like, oh yeah, that's what I want. That feeling, I mean, I think that's what we strive for anyway. That's always our goal, is to give you really quality software without this, you know, pro, you know, are you a pro? Or, I mean, for example, when we deal with artists, you know, we call them ambassadors because we like to think that every user of ours is kind of an artist. They're an artist to themselves if they're not putting their music out, or they're an artist that's trying to like start it up. But all of them are equal in the plane of they're trying to get their expressions out in that way. And why not have the best sound you can while you're doing it? You know, so this idea that a pro application would be the one that sounds best and is the most complicated and crazy to learn, but that's how you know it's pro, rather than the easy application, you know, that kind of doesn't sound great, but you know what, it all works and everyone's happy. We like to think that ours is easy to come onto, fun to play with, and it always sounds good. You know, I would say that's probably the leading mantra you were asking me before, is to like diffuse that equal, what do you call it, equal sum game, right, where one wins and one loses. Diffuse that. It's okay. You have an easy to learn application, it's fun, and guess what, it sounds great. You produce great music. So.
Right, you guys have already done a lot of the hard work for the user that's using the platform. Now you were saying that you're emulating a lot of the you know you know you know a lot of the, I guess, ingredients that make a hit record by integrating an SSL and things like that. Has Reason? Do you know of any major hit records that were ever created using Reason, and what recognizable producers were using them?
I couldn't list them right now. No, there's I mean, absolutely not. I would then come up with, I mean, yeah, I mean, Snoop Dogg is a fan of Octarex, right? I once saw the studio, and there's a number of computers, and they all have the Rex player up there, and it's loop mania. It's a beautiful loop mania. And the funny thing about the software is, because it's devices in the rack, and each device on its own is a piece of software. If you just concentrated on the Octarex, it's a whole way to make music and a whole thing to learn. So, I mean, he's always really liked that. Prince Board is another one that's used Reason a lot, and has done some videos showing. There's one video I remember, I think it's about 4 years old, where he's just in real time in front of a camera coming up with a song like that, which is high risk for a known do, and it sounds pretty groovy. So, I think then there's always the people who are behind the names we know, right? And in this industry, like guys like me or anybody who does artist relations, you get to know that the people that you deal with are the people who are making the names that everybody knows sound good, right? So it's the tech guy, the keyboard tech, the producer guy. It's in hip hop, at least you get the producer elevated to the point where everybody knows their name. But in other kinds of music, producers often are back, in back of the scene, right? But they're key.
That wasn't always the case for hip hop. I mean, this is like a new recent phenomenon, really. You always had your couple celebrity hip hop producers. Now they're starting to be on album covers. So it's a great look. But like you said, a lot of the traditional record producers are always behind the scenes and not really part of the whole artist branding, I guess.
Right, and then the person behind them, there's always a person behind that producer who's really doing 80% of the work, right? When you talk about the cutting, the editing, how that effect really built nicely. Well, probably the producer didn't do that. It's probably somebody that I met who's a Reason head and uses Live and other things too, Peak. They're the unsung, right? Their name will be on the recordings, on the credits, but typically they're not household words,
True. All right, so here's another question for you. I love playing around with Figure, man. That's such a cool, fun app on the iPhone. Is Figure on Android or not?
No, not currently. No.
You guys got to get on Android. I just bought that new Galaxy S4 after being an iPhone user for so long, and that thing is just amazing.
The 4? Yeah, my girlfriend just got S3, and even the 3 is pretty amazing. The 4, I haven't even seen it yet.
Man, that thing is crazy. I've been on an iPhone since 2006 or 7 or whatever it was, and just playing around with the Galaxy S4 just for 2 seconds just blew the iPhone out of the water.
Wow.
Yeah, but
well, I don't know about plans for that. I mean, I think as a company we typically never like to talk about things that aren't real because of the history and legacy of vaporware in this software industry, right? You can talk about things that should come out next month and they're out in a year and a half or 2 and they don't work. And we like to, I think, always talk about what's real. And so I don't know about the plans there, but I do know that.
I'm not gonna ask you, will there ever be a full-fledged Reason on the iPad? So that's a question you won't be able to answer right now.
No. And the other thing is, we see a lot of music software out there that are ports that have been tried to, and they can more or less be successful. I mean, we even did it with Rebirth, right? It's sort of an attempt to take Rebirth and rebirth it, you know, into the new age of mobile. It's really fun to play with. It sounds great, but it's also a port. You know, it doesn't really take advantage of the various things that make mobile devices special, like the gestural stuff. I mean, and that's where Figure was born. So we did one of these ports ourselves, moderately satisfied with it. It's a great seller because it sounds so good and you can do so much with it. But we thought, isn't it better to sort of start with what are these gestural devices best at? How do people now coming into the scene use them? And then we actually got new people on board at Propellerheads, and they put a pirate flag up in a partition in the corner, and you know, they were a little bit like a camp at Propellerheads, and like they were dreaming up this system, and then they would interface with us every once in a while. But because they were sort of set apart, they were able to think differently than reason, think differently in every way from reason. So I think that's why it's successful. It really says, what is it that people are doing physically? How can we make that, you know, a music entry?
It totally seems like it was a whole different team that touched on Figure. Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. We've had a lot of users who are like, wait, we want that interface for you know, entering our reason tracks, right? And there's a way to sort of build it in the rack because the rack is real flexible, but it's not exactly as fall in great music as Figure is. You know.
Mm-hmm. So, you know,
the other thing that's fun to do with Figure that I do at shows sometimes, I have it on my phone, and I'm doing a show that has a huge PA, you know, because we're showing reason or something, and then I'll say, wow, listen to this beat, you know, and you plug the little cable in, and you feed the big PA Figure from a phone, and you hold it up. This tiny device is just like rocking the house, right, with this amazing sound of Thor and Kong, you know, being the actual engines that are making the thing. So, yeah, the sound quality is great.
Yeah, definitely. I love it.
Mm.
I know there's you know, there's so many different facets to the software, and just you know, back to reason, because I like to, you know, pick the brain of some of the people that are developing this thing, and I'm sure you know what's happening on the inside. Is that, you know, how do you decide what part of the application to really start to focus on and develop for? Like, how do you guys sit down as a team and say, okay, this is, you know, these racks or this sound bank, or is it all done at the same time? Are there different people working on different facets of the product, or is it a kind of like segmented, you know, like a segmented process planned out?
Well, I mean, one thing for sure is we have really active forums, and we're really in touch with our user base, and people have requests for years, right? I mean, that's where audio recording came from. I think at some point we said we would never do audio recording or something like that, and of course people wanted audio recording. You know, so then we went in that direction. Yeah. The same with the whole idea of, are you doing plugins? And oh no, you know, there's many reasons for that, and the reasons are the instability we didn't want to risk, because Reason's just really known as a super rock solid platform and bug-free software and all that, and it's really true. And plugins can be an unstable element because they come from different developers, and not everyone adheres to the VST spec or the AU spec or whatever. But then again, we invented rack extensions last summer so that we could overcome that. We were comfortable knowing that it was still stable, it still sounded great, and the users didn't have this huge learning curve, but we were opening it up to third parties. So I think that happens a lot at Propellerhead, where we say, we hear your request, and now we're going to implement it this way. Like we implemented audio recording with a program called Record, and everyone thought, well, wait, we asked for you to put that in Reason. And we were like, yeah, but you know, this works together with it. So we try to do it in a way that keeps our values solid and yet answers a need. And now in this release, we have lots of people ask for external MIDI. You know, why can't we trigger our little fatty or our sub-fatty or our Dave Smith Mofo, you know, whatever you have, Eurorack, from Reason. I love the software. I'm doing all my songs, but I've got this piece. I love it. And then I think our answer always was, well, we're in the box for a reason. And the reason is everything is in one place. I send my one file to my friend in New York or California. They have the same program, so when they open it up, they're not asked for where's the missing files or where's the missing plugins or where's the missing this. They just open it, right? Collaboration becomes easier. So then we were like, external MIDI, wow, that would break that whole collaboration thing. You know, you don't know what somebody else has that they might trigger, and it's not in the box anymore. Plenty of things. But, you know, people were loud about, we want it. You've seen the synth market, right? The synth market is like, whoo, taking off. And so, yeah, so I think we listen to our users, but we often implement in a way that, you know, keeps our values sort of where we imagine them to be. So that's a big feature of Reason 7 right there. Now, where did the audio slicing come from? A lot of people think that that's a cool thing to do. I certainly was lobbying for it forever because I play a lot of acoustic music and I jam a lot. In fact, at 7, when we quit here, I've got people in the garage already and we're going to do our Wednesday night jam, right? And I like to record those things. They're not always, how should we say, you know, on the beat, and they get stranger as the night goes on. So what do you do with those tracks? You know, it might be that, wow, that's a great idea, and it just needs to be tucked in, but it's audio. Damn. So, and we know that other programs like Live can warp and Elastic Audio in Avidland. So the engineers, you know, the developers invented this audio slicing as a way to address that. So now when you record audio in Reason, you double-click the file you recorded, it's already sliced up. You already see it just like it looks like a recycle, you know, kind of file with all the transients marked. You can quantize them, you can move them on the grid, off the grid, you can shuffle them, and it's got this great sound quality because of we've had a good tempo stretch algorithm for a while. And for me, as a bossa nova guitar player, you know, I'm doing this very rhythmic stuff on my classical guitar, and I'm trying to be real good, articulate, and it sounded pretty good to me. Actually, I've got CDs, I'm ready to, I think I was good enough. And then all of a sudden, I do the audio slicing, and I quantize it, and it locks. You know, it just goes into this lock mode with the rhythm. Yeah, yeah. And I was like, oh, I thought it was close, but now it's like super nice. And if I don't want it that much, I do a 10% or 20 or 90. So that's a really good feature. I'm so happy to have audio. And you can export it as a Rex file, and you can export the slices as samples, and that alone is a great feature. Yeah.
And that's what, you know, that's what this is just coming off the fly now, and that's what I totally respect about, you know, the Reason product is that it forces people to want to collaborate. And it makes it a lot easier to collaborate. And a lot of beat makers or producers that consider themselves beat makers and producers get holed up working on a piece of composition by themselves and really, you know, forget about the growth process of, you know, collaboration with other people and you know, so they get happy with their DAW and they just kind of get stuck. You know, they're one-dimensional. They stay in that sound. They don't really work with people from other genres, and that's what I love for the Reason. And you're on the web. You're collaborating with people. You're sending files. They're very small files. You don't have to worry about sending the whole audio file folder along with the plugins and everything. You know, yeah, man. You guys are ahead of your time, and you're doing it in a very safe and safe way where you're not kind of destabilizing the product with plugins, and that's what's awesome.
That's what I love about BeatStars too. I mean, you guys really do the same thing, right? You're uniting people to make music together. I'll tell you the truth. I've been in music all my life, and I've had this education and this and that, but I fell total victim to that same isolation thing, you know, where I can do it all myself, and I can do this virtual bass track and this electric piano thing, and I was very closed off, and only recently have, you know, gotten other producers involved, got other players to play things. Yeah, you do get this sort of closed down control thing where you're controlling everything. Is it the best for that music? I can tell you from my artist relations work that none of the people I meet work that way. None of them. I mean,
Biggest
maybe like,
winners are always collaborative. You know,
yeah,
the biggest always collaborative.
absolutely. And maybe 10% are successful doing that. But other than that, so I really see that that is the way, because it's the happy accident. It's the discovery process thing that you never would have planned yourself about the song. And then this other guy, you know, who just heard it, or this other girl, is like, you know, why don't you try this? You never would have thought of that. So, yeah, it's important.
Gerry,
I have to tell you a funny story, Abe, before we go on. There's this ad over here on the right that I thought were pictures or avatars of the people who are listening, you know, to the broadcast. And then I read the thing underneath, and it's like they're people who are wanted for crimes. So there they are. It's like access public arrest records online. And so I thought, wow, we have a tough crowd listening here, because they're pretty.
Yeah, we got some gangsters.
They're gnarly. Yeah, they're gnarly pictures. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. This software has a bunch of different types of ads serving on the right of it. So
Yeah.
It keeps the product free.
Sure.
But now, we talked a lot about the software. We talked about, you know, what Reason can do, what it's capable of doing. Where are some of the best resources out there to get educated on how to use Reason properly and start mastering the craft of, you know, Reason and becoming a user of Reason?
Yeah, the one place I can think of right away is Propellerhead Software on YouTube. Hundreds of videos. And I think we started this a long time ago. We're not the only company to do it, but we understood that compared to 10 years ago, when people were making really long videos, and then how do you find the section in that long video to answer your interest or your question? You know, it's kind of hard. There's various ways to do it. But now there's these targeted 3, 4, 5, 6-minute videos. And the name of the video is the exact subject area you want. You know, whether it's how to use filters to build a crescendo in your music, or something, or just how do I get started with this device, or how do I really record drums, you know. And so there's hundreds of videos by Propellerhead Software on that YouTube channel. That's the easiest way I can think of to go and learn about.
I got an email recently from a studio here in San Francisco offering a Propellerhead meetup, a Reason meetup. How often are those being you know, put together, and is that something that's available on Propellerhead's site, where people in their local cities are getting together, Reason users are getting together to work together? No,
but that's a really good idea. I mean, it happens to be in San Francisco. It's Paramind, the school that's been doing that, and in New York City, Doug Spot's been doing that kind of thing, and there's other groups around. But frankly, if anyone listening is interested, you use Reason, you love it. Love to talk to you about in your area starting up something, because, you know, in the end, it's a global world, and we all share everything on the internet. And at the same time, it's really regional. You know, who's in my city that I go to hear their music, and they're using the software I use, and we could get together and compare notes. That's certainly something that's really still really meaningful, I think. So if anyone does want to do more of that, I'm always looking for people in the States or Canada, or in the world. I can refer you to anybody else.
Cool. We've got some users that are sending some private messages here that want to start meetups in their cities, and I think the best way to get started, guys, I think there's a website called meetup.com. If someone wants to set up a Propellerhead meetup profile where you guys can start doing that and start sharing them around, send those links to Gerry, and maybe we can facilitate some of that for you guys. You know, that'd be awesome.
Absolutely.
Gerry, let's try to do this screen share. Can we?
Okay.
Can we see if there's any new bells and whistles that you want to show off, possibly on Reason?
Sure. Yeah. Tell me how to
at the top of the screen,
do that.
At the top of the screen, there's a share button.
Okay.
It looks like a TV screen, right? You see it?
Right. Yeah, I clicked it. Nothing happened, but.
And then there's a share your screen.
Right. Share things directly from your computer screen. Right.
Right.
Share full screen. Okay.
There you go. That will show your desktop.
Okay. Are you seeing that?
It's loading right now.
All right, good.
Now, if you open Reason,
yeah,
you'll be able to see that. There it is.
Great.
And if you guys have any questions, please, get those ready. We're going to open that up possibly in the next, 10 minutes. We'd love to hear some questions from you guys about the product. But let's just have a little run through here on some of the new features in Reason 7, and then we'll take some questions.
Yeah, let me go up here and get some, where's the guitar? Now I'm not hearing this here, so let me go up to my Reason preferences and check my audio, just see whether it's expecting to come out of balance or what it's expecting to, there it is. Yeah, see, I usually use balance as my interface, and now we want it to come out of the built-in output. So we'll just change that. One thing I can definitely say is you notice that I always run balance on this really low buffer size. 64 samples is extremely fast. You don't have to, if you're a guitar player playing through your software, this is the setting you need to be using in order for it to sound immediate when you play. This is equivalent, 64 samples is equivalent to about 8 or 10 feet from an amp, the same kind of latency, which we don't think of as latency in the same room. So anyway, that's how I run Reason, and a lot of apps, they can't handle that if you have more than 20 tracks and a bunch of effects and stuff. But anyway, let's see. So one of the things about Reason that I want to talk about is this ability that you can't get lost in this software, right? I hit the F5 button, I get my mixer with all the EQ and compression and everything. When I hit my F6 button, then I get my rack, and this is all the tracks, the samplers, the drum machines, right? Some of the rack extensions like the soft tube Trident. What a beautiful piece. And then up here to the Neptune on my voice to make me sound beautiful. And then on F7 you actually get that. Those are the only 3 views, right? So that really helps to, you don't have a bunch of windows hiding in front and back of each other. You always know where you are. And so what did I want to show you? So let's just go to the guitar. So now you see we've got that there. I mean, I can easily add delay to that because my sends are set up with delay and echo, and that sounds pretty cool. I got the 3/16 on one side, pan to the right a little. Of course, I'm exaggerating it because that's what you do when you show these things. But anyway, we head up the channel strip, and one of the new features of Reason 7 is this ability. The EQ always sounds really good. Just that high frequency fact that you can add so much, and these high pass, low pass filters are amazingly useful. But look at this, the new spectrum analyzer. So now, if you're addicted to using your eyes as well as your ears, then you can change the tone of that guitar, and basically it's the same as using your channel strip, really good sounding EQ, except instead of knobs, if I didn't have a bass player in there, I'd get in there and add a little to low end and stuff. So, yeah.
For a second.
Yeah.
Why don't you turn your video off, cam, and then reshare the screen? I think because of the cam and the screen share uploading, I think it's causing it to freeze up. So if you have one item sharing at once, we can still hear you, and then you can come back on after the demo.
Okay, so turn the cam off in the any meeting page, right?
Yeah, at the top.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. There you go.
And then.
So in other words, we're saving bandwidth.
Exactly, saving bandwidth.
Okay.
And close out the share again, and then reopen it.
Close out the share, reopen it. Yeah. Well, close out the share means just click it again?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Boy, it doesn't really tell you when it's engaged or not. It's funny. And then there's my mood next to it. Like that.
Exactly.
Okay, so then how do I get back to share? Oh, hang on. It says wait a few moments.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I've never tried this any meeting.
Yeah, it was the only platform that actually allowed for, multiple presenters and for attendees to speak up, as well as share your screen all at once. And I just have total control over a webinar, and I thought it was a pretty cool software to use.
Right. All right, well, we'll just wait for that to come. I mean, the mixer, I'll get off the mixer because, what we learned in that survey, too, is that a lot of Reason users, they either do use the mixer because they're comfortable with a large format, powerful mixer, or they like to stay in the rack. So what we did in Reason 7 is throw lots of mixer features into the rack, so not just volume and pan, but the EQ stuff. So you could actually just keep operating knobs in the rack while your stuff plays and actually be mixing it at the same time. That's something we learned, for example, from our survey, and that's a big part of Reason 7, too, is you have to think about how people like to work. So that's another big thing. But I wanted to show you the audio slicing, too.
Are you able to move the mouse? Let's see if that does anything.
I can move the mouse, but it still says we are initializing the screen sharing. Please wait a few moments.
Yeah. I wonder if you can disable the screen share and then re-enable it.
Okay, but when I click on it, nothing really happens. I click on it, and that message doesn't go away.
Right. You can't even get rid of the screen share now, huh?
Well, that message is on. I can go to share a video from YouTube. I can go to share PowerPoint and PDF documents, and I can go to run a poll for your audience. So I could go to YouTube and show the Reason 7 video, but I mean, it's not giving me the share your screen thing.
So maybe we can do that.
Okay, let's see if that happens. Play YouTube video. The URL. So now I have to go here. Let me just find the URL I want. Get Safari up there.
Is there anybody out there that has any questions for Gerry? Maybe we can get one in here. Just say it in the chat, and then I will activate you. Clinton or Steven, I'm going to activate you in a second. Clinton, do you hear me out there? I can hear you, I think. Nope. All right, Steven, let's turn you into a presenter. Steven, are you there? You guys both don't have your mics. Okay. All right, well, what I'll do is I'll just turn everyone into a presenter.
All are muted and may unmute themselves by pressing *6.
You press 6, you can speak up.
Peace, Abe.
What's up, Doc?
How you doing, brother?
Good, man. I'm glad to hear your voice again. The third day straight. I appreciate all the support.
Brother, I'm going to be here until the brakes fall off. I appreciate everything that you're doing for us out here. I'm going to try to keep it real simple this time.
Gerry?
Yeah.
My question is, back in the day, there used to be a thing called the Rap Coalition with a lady named Wendy Day. Sampling and sampling agents were at a lot of the meetings with reasons and the different programs that are like them. And the amounts of sounds that you can download from these programs. Is sampling really necessary or relevant now?
Yeah.
And,
Oh, yeah. I mean, absolutely.
All are muted.
All attendees are muted. That's okay, but I heard your question. Well, maybe I'm just a sampling guy, but to me, both are really important. But I think there's plenty of sounds you wouldn't have access to if all you had was synthesis. Even if you had every kind of synthesis, additive, physical modeling, subtractive, granular. I mean, you name them. There's lots of synthesis methods, but there's what you can do with samples, at least in terms of if you want your listener's brain to be tickled in a certain way, referring to actual instruments that they know of and they know the sound signature, but you've actually processed them a little so that it's a mystery to them why they're interested in that sound, but there's a familiar thing behind the kind of the Wizard of Oz thing. I think that's really magical, you know, and then it's also magical to create a completely new synth sound because they don't know what it is and they're trying to find a reference. Anytime you engage the listener, I think, in that kind of interest level, they get really engaged. They bow into your music, and it becomes interesting. So I wouldn't leave sampling behind myself, especially because samplers sound so cool, like 2 and 3 octaves down from original pitch. I mean, talk about a soundscape that's really would take you a day and a half to program. You've got all kinds, with the kind of interpolation the NNXT has, wow, that's a soundscape just develops for days. So my long answer is don't leave sampling behind. We have live sampling in Reason just like an MPC does. So you can hook up a mic, and if it strikes you, just do something into it and start to play with it. It's another inspiration source, you know.
All right, cool. We're going to take a couple more questions. Going to open it up for Q&A. One sec.
All attendees are muted and may unmute themselves by pressing *6.
Anybody else have a question for Gerry? Hey, what's up, man? You can't hear you.
All right, there we go. Is that better?
Yep, there you go.
Just to kind of touch on the sampling, I'm trying to figure out, is there a way that you can actually take a sample and do like a master tempo on it as far as like changing the tempo but still keeping the same?
Yeah, when you're in Reason and you import some file and you don't know the tempo, but you want it to fit in with your song, let's say, and nobody bothered to write the tempo in to the name of the beat or whatever, that's okay, as long as the audio is cut to be, let's say, 1 or 2 measures even, and so you can tell because it loops great. Then all you do is you take that right handle on the clip, you hold down Option, and if you most of the time you have grid, snap to grid on, you just stretch it out to the 2 measures in your song, and all of a sudden it's totally synced. So that kind of time stretching without changing the pitch, that's really superior in Reason, I think. I think the algorithm for that, if you've never heard a demo of Reason, you take the tempo up or down 60 BPM or something and it still sounds good. You'll realize how good the algorithm is for any kind of stretching, you know, in Reason. So that's how I would do that you're talking about.
Cool. Anybody else out there? We'll take another one. Oh, here comes somebody. Can't hear you out there. Be sure to unmute yourself. Nope. Like the mic is not there.
How about now? You hear me?
Yep.
There you are.
Am I echoing?
Okay.
You were in the beginning. Now it's dry.
It's better now?
Yeah.
Alright. I go by the name of Big Moth. I got my own label. Got a website. It's called BigMouthMusic.com. I want you guys to check me out because I'm going to be putting a lot of music out. You know what I'm saying? It's in progress. It's work in progress. So you're going to see me grow. You know what I mean? You're going to see things happen. But then, besides that, I just wanted to ask you, why certain sounds are not in record, but it's in Reason?
Oh, I can definitely tell you that, yeah. What we imagined when we came out with record was that there was, well, there's a million kind of users, right? But the users that were using Reason with all the synths and the matrix and the arpeggiator and the kind of electronic music thing, they were maybe a different crowd than a singer-songwriter, you know, who might want to record tracks, play my guitar in, not worry too much about what kind of filtery, synthy sound would go with this, but just wants to get the tracks down for their song. So we thought, okay, so they need a good mixer, they need the line 6 stuff if they're a guitarist or bassist, they need reverb and all the effects we had, that's fine. And then they need some virtual instrument like a MIDI thing in order to do these virtual tracks. What are we going to do? And we thought, hey, let's do a thing like back in the day there were instruments called Proteus or Sound Canvas or these other ROM-based instruments. And what was good about them was you turn the dial, instantly a new sound came. Electric piano, 1 millisecond later you could have a bass sound. So we made the ID8, which is this very basic collection of sounds, thinking that, hey, they can just choose the organ quick here, and then later if they want to replace it, they could replace it in Reason or something. So that's why, you know, Record turned out to be the program that could record audio and have the mixer and stuff for the songwriters. Reason was still the arsenal of synth thing, and then they worked together as one program.
Oh,
and so if you wanted everything, you know what I mean, you'd have everything. Yeah.
I love the whole, I love Reason, I love Record. I mean, it makes things so easy. You just go in, you just start working. It's like, that's what I love about it, you know? It's just like I could create so quickly, you know, off of that product. And I would love to get, you know, Reason 7. So I'm definitely going to be looking into that.
Are you using Record and Reason 5 now?
Well, right now, I have 4.0 Reason, and I have Record. So
right.
that's what I'm right now.
Yeah.
I bought mine a while ago. You know?
Well, we have a really simple upgrade thing where it doesn't matter if you have Reason 1 or 4 or 6, it's going to cost you the same amount to get onto 7, right? So it's yeah, you'll see a lot of stuff when you do that. It's funny you make that comment, man, because that's the single comment we've seen in all the years we've done this is people writing stuff like, I made more music this last weekend because I got this program than I did in the last 6 months or something. You know, really over-the-top kind of expressions like that. That's been the kind of feedback that keeps us going. So thanks for that. Yeah.
Well, guys, I think we're
Are muted.
7 o'clock. Gerry, I know you got a session tonight. We appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Do you have any last words for the people out there?
Well, just to say that, to say it's a session maybe makes it sound a little more rigorous than it is. Every Wednesday night, we get together and we play music and sing. And I just tell you, if you don't have a night like that in your life and you love music, sometimes it's nice to turn off the heavy production vibe and this and that and just the joy of music. Play it. Play it. You can easily turn on record on some device, a little Zoom recorder or whatever, but it's fun to sort of take your mind off the production aspect and just say, let's just make it happen and record what happens. That's what we're going to do tonight. So, thanks,
Gerry,
guys. Thank you.
Do you have a Twitter? Do you have a Twitter or any social network where guys can find you?
Yeah, Propellerhead Software does that. Propellerhead, we have. But you know what? I'm coming out with 2 CDs, and I've got a music name, and I've got to set all that stuff up because I'm coming out of the pack.
Well, if you ever need a distribution deal, man, I'm here for you.
All right, I gotta remember that. I love the fact that when Big Muff got up there, he was like, "Hey, I'm coming out. I'm coming at you." You know, it's really something. Yeah, I've never done it in my life, and I'm excited and inspired by people like that who do it. That's a big part of the game.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Thank you, Gerry. Thanks, everyone, for stopping by. Day 3 is a wrap. We'll see you tomorrow with the guys from DJ Booth and Hip Hop DX. If you want to learn how to market your music and how these guys select music to feature on their high-profile websites, check in tomorrow. It'll be a great seminar. Thanks again, guys. Have a good night.
Thank you, everyone.